Hi, I'm going to read from Matthew chapter 14. We were reading this at a prayer meeting the other week and something from it struck me that I hadn't seen before. I'll tell you about that in a moment, but let me just read it for you from verse 22. So immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. He'd just done the feeding of the 5,000. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink, crying out, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Now, the verse that really struck me when we read this was Peter actually saying, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." And I've heard this story so many times before, and that verse has never struck me in the way it did the other day. I mean, why on earth would Peter say that? If it's Lord, tell me to come to you on the water. Why didn't he wait for Jesus to come and meet them on the boat? And, the water's pretty rough. So for Peter to say that to Jesus just sounds a little bit strange. And, Peter's been with Jesus for quite a long while now. And he's seen numerous healings and miracles. So maybe he actually recognised the power in Jesus, and that gave him the faith to step out, leaving the apparent safety of the boat. And then it says, he saw the wind and was afraid, and he cries out to Jesus, and immediately Jesus reaches out his hand. So I thought, what's God teaching me in this? Peter must have recognised Jesus calling him, and he stepped out in response. If Jesus wasn't there, I'm sure Peter wouldn't have stepped out, but he stepped out, and even though he got fearful and things seemed a bit wobbly underfoot, Jesus was right there to save him. So, where is my faith? Is it in the apparent safety of the boat, or is it in the one who calls me and is reaching out his hand to me? So that's the thing I've been challenged to, and I've also been listening to some of the series on Scattered People by Phil Moore, and he talked the other day about having eyes of faith, ears of faith, and feet of faith, and that made me think again back to Peter, because that's what he acted on. His eyes of faith, he saw Jesus, and then he heard Jesus calling him, and then he stepped out in faith, and even when his faith was buffeted by the wind, Jesus was right there. And we're hearing more and more on faith in our church preaching series. So my encouragement to you and to myself is to keep looking towards Jesus, keep listening to him, and then get ready to step out, because he's right there. Am I ready and willing to respond and step out? I hope so. It can seem like a big ask. It might seem a bit daunting, but Jesus is right there.